So in this video, I'm going to break down the real reason why most of the people fail CSWA exam. Now, if you're about to take this exam, there are a few things you have to pay attention to so you can actually pass this exam successfully. Right now, the real problem is that most of the people watch just random tutorials, they learn tools, they get confident, then they model something, and then everything falls apart. They have to delete, start from the scratch, and so on. No, why is that? No, the reason is because when you design something, you have to know the logic, you have to know the intent. And CSWA does not test your tool knowledge, it tests your modeling logic, your design intent, your accuracy, and your speed under the pressure. So the exam basically asking you, can you build a clean model without restarting when something changes? And if you can do that, then you're going to pass. Now, I'm going to break down now the three rules to pass CSWA. Rule number one is build the base shape first, right? So you don't start with fillets, you don't start with holes, you don't start with patterns. What you do, you start with the largest, simplest, solid block that represents the general shape, right? So you have to figure out what is the general shape, and then you start with that. Then rule number two, once you have that, you add features after. So that means you should start with basic shape, then you should have cutouts, patterns, and then fillets. You don't want to start with fillets too early because then you're going to have to do a lot of changes at the back end. And rule number three, use relations, don't guesswork dimensions. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is you want to figure out, okay, what are the relations between entities in this model or in this sketch, right? Are some entities parallel, perpendicular, concentric, right? You want to figure this thing out, and then you want to define these relations. Once you define these relations, then you want to put in dimensions. Also, the second thing, you want to check out the symmetry, right? If something is symmetrical, and then you have to extrude, use a mid plane. Okay, extrude. Don't use extrusion direction 1, extrusion direction 2, only if it's a different extrusion depth. But this way, when you have to change something, you can do it very quickly. And also convert entities, offset entities, right? If there are two objects or sketches that are the same size, you can then use sketch entities or offset entities as well. First, sketch the base model, then add relations, dimensions, and then at the end you add fillets and all little details that you have like holes and so on. Now let me show you the SolidWorks. Just a quick demonstration how to actually do this. I'm going to create something similar very quickly that you can find on the CSWA exam. Now, the first thing that you want to pay attention once you start doing this exam is your unit system, right? So make sure you have the right unit system. The second thing is your material, because you're going to have to calculate mass, so your material must be correct. So that's what you figure out. The second thing. The third thing, you have to figure out, okay, on which plane will I start? Okay, so that's the third thing. So for example, I can start on the front plane like this, okay? Now, we're going to create a sketch, right? So now you have to know, okay, where am I going to start my sketch? That's number four, relative to the origin, right? So for example, I'm going to select a line and I'll go something like this. And now once I have this basic sketch that will represent the base of the model, I must first put relations. Now, for example, I can see from the model that this line side and this one here are equal, right, in dimension, so I can put here equal. Then what I can do is I can maybe have this, let me change this just to make it more interesting, something like this. Then maybe we can say, okay, this line and this line here are perpendicular, right? Like this. And then also we can have, okay, this line here and this line here are also equal in the length. And now once we have all of these relations that we see, right, from the model, now we start putting dimensions. So now we can put here the length of this one. I'm not going to put here now the numbers because it really does not matter at this point. But now we know that also this one here is the same. but we have to define here angle, right? Either this angle or this angle here. Depends what they're going to give you. So let's define this angle like this. And now we don't have to define angle here. Now the only dimension we have to define is the length of this one here. That's it, right? And our sketch, as you can see, is fully defined. We just added 3 dimensions because we know what plane to use, where to start relative to the origin, and what are the relations. And now, for example, I can go to the features. I have to extrude this. It has to be symmetrical. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use here mid plane. I will not use here direction 1 and then direction 2. I'm going to use the mid plane. I'm going to put some number like this. Then also depends on the thickness, right? And also you have to check, okay, in which direction I have to extrude this thickness. That's also very important. You have to pay attention. Now we have this, and this is our, for example, the base contour of our model, right? So we don't add here any fillets or anything. So once we have that, then probably you're going to have something like, okay, you have to create some rib, right? So you're going to go with a line, and it's going to be something like here to here, maybe here on the midpoint like this, and maybe then give you this angle or maybe this distance, right? So you have to know exactly what you have to define. So we have that, and now we can easily just go, for example, to the rib, and we can create a rib like this. Right, so basically this is our base model that we have to create. And now once we have this, now we can start adding our details, right? Whether we're gonna add here some fillets, we're gonna add here some holes, and so on. Because now if we have to change something, for example, we have to go here to the extrude, we have to change the extrusion depth. We can just simply go here and we can change it very easily. The same thing, we have to change something in our sketch. Just go to the sketch, and our sketch is very clear, and we can change these things very easily. And now once you have this, everything else is much easier. As I said, pay attention to the unit system and material as well, because that's going to change from the task to task. Now, if you want my full preparation for a CSWA exam, all the tools that you need to know, you can just click the link below and you can access to my course. Right now, it's on the 50% discount.